Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Astro-Tarot Deep Dive. I'm Millie, and I'm here with Susheela, and we're going to talk about October 2024 today. As always, we want to do a little bit of a recap of where we're coming from in order to tie in the bigger story of where we're headed. And we were just touching base before we started recording, and as we usually do, we try to find common themes with the clients that we've spoken to and just people and friends and our own experiences. And I was telling Susheela that one of the things that I noticed come up was like this inability to deny the raw truth of what was presenting itself.
Mhm.
I think that we finally got to a point in our relationships, in the relationship to life, perhaps a relationship to a career or whatever it is, to where we were able to, for a long time, avoid the difficult conversations, avoid the hard truths of certain things. And September was one of those months where we just could not. And I think that that was all leading up to the South Node solar eclipse in Libra of October 2nd. And that goes to show you what a South Node does in the zodiac. It really makes us get very honest about where we are, regardless of how much we want to continue ignoring it.
Yeah, we all say we want change. We want things to be different while bringing all of the same stuff with us.
Right,
It makes no sense. And
right.
we had the lunar eclipse and the solar eclipse because we're recording this now on the 7th. And often, I mean, I'm on the West Coast in Canada, you're on the West Coast in the US. We have that fault line. Eclipse season and earthquake season tend to go hand in hand, and we had some, like, there's many little ones all the time, but we
Right.
always see this, flush. If you look at the little earthquake map, you see this flush of many earthquakes. And so we had two not too far apart and not too far from the shore, of like 3.7, 4.2, something like that, at the
Mhm,
same time.
mhm.
But it feels very much in alignment with everything. Everything is quaking. Everything
Right,
is shaking,
right.
the foundations of everything. And it's,
Mhm.
you were mentioning people, there's like a maybe latent anger that is bubbling to the surface. And I mentioned how, it's Halloween month. So it's like the cauldron of poop is not only being stirred, but it's ready to boil over. And so there's that feeling of like September was a transitional month.
Mhm,
The Pluto, we've been talking about it for a long time, how it's a shift in era.
mhm.
It's not a mild shift, in everything that we've been doing, our inner work, our outer work, our consciousness, the collective, the planet, humanity, Earth itself, whatever, it's transforming, and it's painful. It's excruciating.
Mhm.
I think we've gone through, I can't say we've gone through the worst of it because I don't think so, but we've gone through the part where people are beginning to go, oh, when you said transform, you meant
Right.
this is what you meant, not like, getting a new haircut kind of transform. It's like
Right,
inside out, upside down. Hmm.
right. I think Mars in Cancer, and I think it's important to just mention that now because as of now that we are recording this, Mars in Cancer is in his pre-retrograde shadow phase, and it's going to retrograde between December 6th and February 23rd, 24th, depending on where you live. And it's going to retrograde from the latent degrees of Leo into back into Cancer. I think Mars in Cancer really represents so much that anger, that deeply rooted anger that we have been carrying. Cancer, right? Um, Cancer, there's something about Cancer that is so intuitive and so psychic in the zodiac that even to us, it's so subtle that we
Mhm.
can miss it, right? We can miss like the needs of our moon sometimes because we're just so identified with the ego, with the sun. So there's something about Cancer, about that moon energy that is so subtle, or that we can just, it's very easy to move over it, to move past it. And Mars there is just not going to allow that. And I think that right now we're really facing that. We're beginning to really face that anger, perhaps some resentment, wanting to make some people bad in our story. I mean, all of the Mars things that are necessary.
Yeah, I think it's the anger in the place that you're hurt.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, the wounded place, that's where the anger
Mm-hmm.
comes from. Like, this hurt me and I never addressed it, or
Mm-hmm.
this person hurt me and I never addressed it, or like, I think people will have a hard time with forgiveness. I think it's going to be a lot of that will be the mantra of like
Right.
not condoning things, but putting them
Right.
down, letting them go, walking away, stepping away. Like,
Right.
otherwise, everything will implode.
Mm-hmm. Right. So,
De-escalation.
right. Yeah. So let's get started, and we'll talk more about that Mars and Cancer energy because it does unfold as the month goes on. Um, Anything you want to say about the solar eclipse in Libra? I think
Yeah.
it really set
Well,
the tone for the month.
yeah, it does. The card that I have is the Four of Swords, which is that take a little downtime.
Mm.
It's typically the warrior, usually still wearing armor, lying down like in a sanctuary. So it's a little nap, it's a little respite before you go out there and face the battle again. And I,
Right.
and I think really that is the tone of like, be careful where you spend your energy, because you're going to need a lot of energy and constant reminder of tending to your own needs, maybe keeping your mouth shut, maybe,
Right.
not getting involved in that fight, like just reserving, focusing on the your internal emotional psychological reserves, kind of thing.
That's so good. That's so good because, as I mentioned a few moments ago, I think that solar eclipse really set the tone for the month. And just on a, just on a different note, I also think that that solar eclipse has come with great manifestations for a lot of people out there, manifestations of opportunity. And so I think the same goes for that. Like, be mindful of your reserves, of how much efforting you're doing, of how much of yourself you're putting out there, how much you're investing in something, because I think we're still trying to find some balance in all of this energy.
Hmm.
So that takes us to October 8th, where we have Venus and Scorpio create a trine to Mars in Cancer. And then we have Mercury and Libra create a trine to Jupiter in Gemini. So let's say that last week of September leading into October, and that first week of October were weeks of a lot of dynamic conversations, difficult conversations, a lot of trying to sort things out, angry conversations, angry feelings, everything really up to the surface. This week of October 7th, but this day of October 8th is really great because Venus in Scorpio is the ruler, right, of that solar eclipse in Libra. And Venus in Scorpio is saying, okay, but at the very least now we have a much more intimate relationship because we're aware of each other's shadows. We're aware of each other's stuff, right? The trine to Mars in Cancer, on the one hand, is not only are we aware of each other's shadow, we're also aware of a lot of our childhood wounds, right? What you were saying a few moments ago. Trines between waters are an invitation to have a lot of compassion.
Hmm.
So, and here you have the cosmic lovers, Venus and Mars, the qualities of the masculine and the feminine coming together and saying, we can move through this. It's deep, it's difficult, but we can do this. The flip side to that can be just getting so overwhelmed by all of it and feeling like it's too much. Now, Mercury and Libra trine Jupiter and Gemini, I really like how that trine balances out that water trine because this is much more of an objective look at things. Okay, so here's our shadows, here's our stuff. Here are the childhood wounds. They came up over the last 2 to 3 weeks, perhaps even longer. Mercury and Libra is who do we bring as a mediator, right?
Mhm.
Whether it's an actual mediator, an attorney, a therapist, a coach. The trine to Jupiter and Gemini is there can be growth when we find a different way of looking at this. So
Mhm.
here we have the depths of our souls meeting the practicality of the mind. And I think that's actually a really great balance of energies.
Yeah, and I think, all the things that show up in this month, like I'm looking at everything, it might feel, oh my gosh, like this is like a lot of, we'll say, bad stuff, heavy stuff, whatever. But
Mhm.
because we're transforming, this is the opportunity to look at the thing in its entirety instead of dealing with the tip of the iceberg, going, well, I've dealt with the thing. There it is. Meanwhile, there's that bubbling cauldron under the
Right.
surface.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
it's like, yeah, it is painful. Yes, it might be overwhelming, but there it is. Here is the opportunity to actually deal with it. Whereas before we couldn't deal with it. We couldn't access the thing in its entirety.
Right.
So I think that's why that Four of Swords, the solar eclipse energy, is going to be needed for the whole month and longer, maybe, of
Mhm.
constantly attending to your inner needs, to stay healthy and sane. So the two cards I have for that are both major arcana. We
Mm.
have the High Priestess and Death. And I mean, Death is the card of transformation. They're both majors. So these aren't minor nuances in the month. And they're together on the same day. And they are also going to last for quite some time. So even
Mhm.
though it starts on that day, it's a feeling that's going to linger.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so I really like in this card that it's a bat and it's still a very bright and uplifting card, but it's always, there's a hint of illusion, deception. Even though things are coming to light, you might not know what is true. Like we've got AI, we've got
Right.
somebody says something and that sounds true, and somebody else said something and that sounded very credible. And it's like, the truth comes up, but there's also the inability to know what's true, like how to discern, and just that process in itself can be overwhelming. Where
Mhm.
people might be like, I don't want to hear anymore. I don't want to know. I said I
Mhm.
wanted to know, but I don't want to know.
Right. Right.
The 27th thing was the tip, was the straw that broke the camel's back. I was good up
Right.
until 26, but the 27th thing, that's too much for me. And so, even the transformation here in death, it's like it's liberating, but that transformation is excruciating. So it's death. It's not like digestion, it's death. It's like
Right.
there's no bigger transformation. So those two things together are pretty heavy
Mhm.
and yet offer a whole lot of opportunity.
Yeah. I think one thing to remember that is really important is that if collectively we are experiencing that last bit of Pluto retrograde in Capricorn, and we'll touch on that in a second as well, but I think this is important, especially when it comes to relationships. We are undoing and unlearning a lot of things that have been passed down from generation to generation. This
Yeah,
isn't just an us thing. This isn't just us sucking at relationships, right? This is us genuinely trying to figure out how to do things differently without a manual,
absolutely.
right? So those cards to me felt so like, yes, major arcana, big deal, right? but it's also like, oh, but it's so possible because we're
Yeah.
trying.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So important to remember that, I think, to give ourselves and others a little bit more grace. Um, October 9th, we have Jupiter begin its retrograde in the sign of Gemini. And did I say October 9th or
Yeah.
29th? No, I
Yeah.
said
No, you said ninth. Yeah. You
okay.
said ninth. Yeah.
October 9th, Pluto begins its retrograde in Gemini and remains retrograde um, till February of 2025. So, what you were saying a few moments ago about all of the information, is it true? I cannot know one more thing. It's too much. I don't know that it's necessarily going to slow down. I don't know that the output of information is necessarily going to slow down. I think there's going to be much more of a discernment within people as individuals saying, okay, I need to curate my social media to just the things that I really want to see because everything else just feels too much. Um, I think this is great for anyone who is thinking about teaching in some way, leading in some way. Um, Teach what you know. Know that it's inside of you. Know that you already have the knowledge that you need. I think another way that this can manifest, and Jupiter retrogrades tend to remind us of this, find abundance and prosperity and growth in what you already have, right? It's the abundance within, and how does that translate
Mhm.
outward? Anytime Jupiter goes retrograde, I think that it is an opportunity for us to integrate the expansion or the growth of something that we've experienced since Jupiter entered that sign.
Mhm. Well, we have a very nice card for that day, actually. It's the Seven of Pentacles, which is a growth and prosperity kind of
Mm,
card. It's not the end of the road, it's
mhm,
along the way, having the signs, paying attention to the signs that say, hey, I'm on the right track. Things are, I do have a lot of resources. I do have skills.
right.
I do have connections. There are more pieces of the puzzle that I'm now aware of. I didn't think I had. I was looking at everything that was missing. And
Mhm,
so the sevens are typically a fortunate card. They're a standing your ground. They're a looking at what is instead of what if in a negative sense. So there is reinforcement. There's like some kind of sign from the universe to say like you're on the right track. There is something improving or growing or expanding. And it does come, it's not something that lands in your lap. It's not like receiving gain, like a lottery or a windfall or just serendipity. It's like, oh, I actually put effort into this a long time ago and now it's actually showing up because I
mhm.
think we've cleared, or we're at least halfway through clearing the clutter because we can't deal with any more clutter.
Right. Oh, I like that. Oh, that's so good. Yeah, because I think Jupiter, in its very indulgent expression, can be so much clutter. More is more is more is more is more, and it never ends.
Mhm.
Yeah. That takes us to October 11th, in which Pluto moves direct in Capricorn for the very last time in our lives, and makes it starts making its way out of Capricorn, and it will finally make its way into Aquarius again on November 19th. One of the things that Susheela and I were talking about before we started recording is how Pluto, this last retrograde of Pluto in Capricorn, has really shown the darkest of the shadow of what Pluto actually represents in the zodiac. It's deprived of any morality, and you can look at things happening all over the world, entertainment, all kinds of things, and it's like you can't help but feel disgusted. You can't help but, in certain instances, I've spoken to people where there's a sense of like defeat. Like I can't do anything about this. That's Pluto. So, we really are seeing the shadow, Pluto, of the elite, for instance, or what
Yeah.
has represented the elite, what has represented certain systems. the shadow of patriarchy, if you want to take it that far, right? The shadow Pluto of all of those things, Capricorn. And those things don't happen for nothing. We're really being shown, look, this needs to change, and this is why. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, one of the things too is that we tend to isolate or silo all these
Mm,
different components, and we are
mm,
complicit in their existence. They don't exist on their own, they don't exist in a vacuum. If we are
mm,
on planet Earth, we play a part in this. So collectively, we are able to shift something.
mhm, mhm.
We are able to do something, but it takes like you know it takes that awareness of, if it's not an us and them, it is actually all of us, which can be burdensome and negatively enlightening, if that makes sense, in a certain way, hard to swallow as well.
Right, right.
So this, look at it's a little ass. Yeah, anyway, it's a cute little donkey for the Knight of Pentacles, and it's knights are champions of things, and this is the slowest moving thing.
Mm,
This is the energy of steadfastness, loyalty, integrity, applying yourself, perseverance. That is the thing that will guide us through. This
right.
unassuming little donkey taking his sweet old time, carrying the load, carrying the burden, all the way through. And they are pretty cute. They're not. You're not going to win it's not a racehorse.
Right.
They're for different things. And I think anybody trying to get through this on a racehorse, um, like none of the facades are holding up. And again, we've put those things in place.
Mm,
We've paid for them. We have sanctioned them. We have done all that stuff. So it's the shadow of everything, and we're all up in it. Unfortunately,
yeah.
as ugly as it can be, we are all part of it. So it's collective, and it's existential, and it's internal, and it's spiritual, and when it gets too much, go find a farm with a cute little donkey and give it a hug. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. It really is all the things at once. And I think that there's something about Pluto and Capricorn, and I think it's because of that earth quality
Mm,
where the things are so in your face, the things are so tangible, the things are, this is what we built. That is the essence of earth energy in the zodiac, to look at what we have manifested, what we have built. Um, it's not all that great. And so in that comes the understanding that rebuilding will take time.
mhm,
But if we're intentional, then we can rebuild differently. And that goes for both personal. So think about those themes in a personal level and, at a larger scale. That takes us to October 13th, in which Mercury enters the sign of Scorpio and remains there for about three weeks, 3.5 weeks, as Mercury does in each sign. Now, a few things about this. One, let's say that eclipse season, as we're headed out of eclipse season, because I think October will still be eclipse season. Um, Mercury in Scorpio is going to give us the opportunity to actually dive deeply into the lessons that this eclipse season has brought us, because we've gone from Mercury in Virgo, Mercury in Libra, two signs that just want to find a solution, two signs that just want to make it perfect again, right? Those signs just want to get it orderly and tidy again. And Mercury in Scorpio is saying, no, like you have to understand this at the root, at the core of this. And when you do, when you take the time to do that, you will be amazed at the thing that you are trying to like go around is actually in there. You just have to go through it, not around it. That makes
Mhm.
sense.
Perfect card for that is the Four of Pentacles, which
Oh,
is
wow.
the holding on. We had this like in as our weekly card several weeks ago. It's traditionally the card of the miser, but it can be holding on to something out of fear instead of something else. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and holding on, as we mentioned at the beginning, holding on to all the things and yet wanting change. It's like we cannot bring those things with us. And
Mm-hmm.
I find it interesting that we have the crescent moon, which we've seen already in the high priestess.
Oh,
And then the speed of things, the slowness, contrasted by the little bunny rabbit here, this little magical thing. The little fox is underneath the ground looking for the bunny rabbit. The bunny rabbit's on top, going, you're
mhm,
looking in the wrong place. I
mhm.
think there's a lot of that feeling of like trying to resolve things in the wrong in the wrong way, in the old way, going, oh, I want all the new stuff, but I'm going to still do things the way I did because that's what I'm holding on to because I'm so afraid. But I want change. I really do want change, but I don't want it to be bad. Well, yeah,
Right,
yeah, you have to,
right,
as you said, you have to go through it, not around it.
right. That beneath the surface. Oh, that card was so perfect for that because that's what Mercury and Scorpio asks us to do.
Hmm.
Um, because when we think of the order of the signs in the zodiac, by the time we get to Scorpio and we've had two previous signs like Libra and Virgo that are just trying to make things orderly and tight. And mind you, this isn't anything positive or negative about any sign. It's just the natural succession of the signs. By the time we get to Scorpio, there's a reminder of all of that is great. Organization is great. Being objective with certain things is great. But there's something about that that will only keep you at the surface level of things.
Yeah,
And Scorpio is always looking at beneath the surface. And the reminder that there's gold there, that there's oil there, right? Like when we drill and drill, when they drill and drill and drill and drill for oil, it finally
yeah.
comes out. That's a very Scorpio image. Okay, so that takes us to October 14th, where the Sun in Libra creates a square to Mars in Cancer, and Venus in Scorpio opposes Uranus in Taurus. Okay, I think there is a lot of opportunity here for things to just come out, and at the very least, there's a lot of honesty in there. Okay. Sun in Libra can feel like really trying to just think of things in an objective, logical way, which there's nothing wrong with. But what the overall season is asking us is to not stay there, right?
Mm,
Don't don't just try to rationalize my hurt, right? Sun in Libra, air sign, square Mars in Cancer. It's like someone is angry, someone is lashing out, and all you're trying to do is tell them to calm down. And these are the reasons why. It's like if you breathe and count to 10, you're gonna feel a lot better. That's not it. Let it happen. Venus and Scorpio, opposite Uranus and Taurus, is somewhat of an explosive type of energy. But the opposition to Uranus and Taurus, like Uranus, there's a breakthrough. This is
mm,
why I think that this can actually be quite a positive energy in terms of, oh, that's what you've been trying to tell me in so many roundabout ways. Because with Mars in Cancer, we have to remember that if someone is new to being self-aware, doesn't know how to process their feelings, let alone communicate them. They're going to tell you a lot of things before they can actually get to the root of the thing. And
yes.
this is one of those times.
Yeah, that's very interesting that you said that because, of course, everything is always in sync here because
Mm,
The Seven of Swords is really about deception and things coming to light, and it can be about dishonesty and uncovering the truth,
mm,
uncovering the painful truths and things like that. But it can also be we hide stuff from ourselves too. There's
mhm,
information that we receive, that we see, that we hear, that we think. We lie to ourselves all the time. So
mhm.
it's not just like external deception or lies or hidden things, but things are kept in a certain way so that we can function. I think a lot
Right.
of the times. And then, and you might notice there's like three wildcats here,
Mhm.
interestingly, carnivores, and we've got the Two of Wands. So the Two of Wands is like a pre-planning position. It's not about actually planning yet. So if you may feel at this time like, I don't know how to set a course for anything because there's too many unknowns. Like I don't know what the truth is. So the truth is going to come out. What could that be? What's the information? So even if it's nothing so grandiose like the truth, with big shiny lights and
Right.
gold bars or whatever, it's just what is the thing, what is the hidden piece of information, what is it that I need to know in order to do the next thing.
Right.
That's this, and this is like, but I don't know that yet, so I don't even know how do I plan for the unknown, how do I envision when whatever I envision is probably going to change because I don't have all the information because it's slowly coming out. So again, that whole month of like
Mhm.
looking out for yourself, taking the time, going through the stuff is going to keep coming out. Just kind
Right.
of know and trust. And there is a bit of the withholding as well, that Four of Pentacles feeling of like maybe don't take action right away. Maybe you do have to be a little deceptive yourself in a sense. Maybe deceptive is too negative of a word, but hold your cards closer to the chest kind of thing. Like
Mm,
you can be authentic and not give out all the information,
mhm.
that kind of stuff. So it's yeah.
Yeah. What I really like about those cards is that they really reflect that these aspects don't necessarily lend themselves for a solution. They just lend themselves to another layer of
Yep.
honesty
Yep.
of what's actually there.
Yeah. Some steps. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Survey the,
Mhm.
they're looking out on the grasslands. Survey. You can't see everything.
Right. Right. Um, yeah. So on October 15th, we have Venus in Scorpio trine Neptune in Pisces. Um, we have we have a trine with water, right? So I think this can be an opportunity to just be, to really take care of yourself, try to find some calm, really try to slow things down. How's your body? How's your heart? How's your mind? Do you need to talk to someone? This doesn't necessarily give me like venting energy, but it is this energy of where you might need to be held, right? Um, I think that intuition is going to be at quite, at an all-time high, especially as we are leading towards a full moon. Things are really coming to the surface, but there's also a great amount of surrender here. And so the surrendering, I've been listening to a lot of Tara Brach recently,
Mhm.
and she talks about surrendering to the hard edges of whatever you're holding inside, right? And what it is, it's just there's always a part of maybe not always, but there can be a part of us that is trying to find a solution to something that's there in order for us to not have to feel it or deal with it. And what this is asking us is surrender to what's there. Soften into the reality of what's being shown to you, not from a place of where you're giving up, but from a place where if you just allow yourself to be with what is, it will be a much smoother ride. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. I was thinking of the word surrender actually when we were back at our,
Mhm.
second aspect with the death card, because you get to that place of total surrender, of let go. And it's
Mhm.
not in a literal sense, obviously, but it's like, I think I've mentioned before in this thing where I got this message on Instagram where there's a little video, and you freeze it, and that's your message. And it said, when you think you've surrendered, surrender some more. And I was like, yeah, whatever. And I did it again, and it said the
Mhm.
same thing. And I did it the third time, and it said it again. I'm like, what, is this thing broken? And I sent it to my friend, and she got a different answer. And I did it the fourth time, and then I was like, oh,
Right.
the irony. And I think
Right.
we've all been in that this whole time, going, oh yeah, deal with the shadow. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'll deal with the shadow, deal with the dark stuff. Oh yeah, 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 yeah. I'll purge, I'll purge, I'll purge, I'll do the stuff. Okay, okay. And then we're clearing out the stuff, and
Mhm.
like everything is so nice and clean.
Mhm.
New coat of paint, it's all done,
Mhm.
sparkling, smells good. And there's like this one festering box of something. That's the period we're entering now. That that one thing. So the card that we have, so if you remember, we just had the lion, or the what, yes, they were lions, for the two
Mhm.
of wands. So we have a progression, two of
Right.
wands going to the three of wands. So that's significant, meaning the numbers are progressing, we are progressing. It may not feel like that, but we go through the motions, and there is progress. Like the pre-planning to now the planning, whatever
Mhm.
that means, just taking steps, clearing another box of,
Mhm.
your internal crap. It is progress. Looking at it, sitting and crying, regretting, feeling the pain, whatever, it is still progress. You are taking steps, and you're moving through the stuff. So yeah, it's going to be a heavy month, but it's going to feel good when it's done.
Right. It's a bit cathartic.
Very much.
Yeah. Yeah. So that takes us to
Mm.
October 17th, in which we have the full moon in Aries, and then almost immediately after, Venus enters the sign of Sagittarius. Um, Look, we're going to have a full moon in Aries with Venus at the 29th degree of Scorpio, where the moon is going to square Pluto. The full moon is going to take place at 24 degrees, 20 something, late 20s. I can't remember exactly right now, of Aries and Libra. Pluto is now direct at 29 Capricorn. That's I just sigh. I didn't even mean to do that.
was that was very authentic. I'm sitting there going, "Oh boy, we're at the end. Oh, that's the end, the end, the end. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Whew." Is it the
Okay.
end? Are we at the end? Oh.
So it's so much of the culmination of everything we've been talking about. Really. I think everything in the month of October is a lead up to this full moon in Aries. How we experience it that week or even the day of, I don't know that it matters so much as the buildup matters, because
Mm,
there's so much more information still being given to us. Um, Prior to that full moon in Aries. And this is just, and remember, Mars is the ruler of Aries. Mars is in Cancer. Mars is going to retrograde in Cancer. So much of what comes up ev- throughout the month of October with this full moon, we are
mm,
going to process in the when Mars is retrograde in Cancer. So this is just us getting to such a finite, raw level of honesty that this full moon in Aries, the cosmos is just saying, let me just make sure that you know exactly what I'm telling you.
Yeah. Well, this is interesting. You know, you talk about the communication aspect and whatnot. We've got two pages happening here
Mm, mhm,
for the day. So pages are messengers. They're juvenile energy typically. Um, the Page of Pentacles is typically about material things, documents, writing, emails, phone calls, transfer of information in a concrete way
mm,
somehow. And
mhm,
then we've got the Page of Swords, and that is the intellect. It's thought communication. It can be channeled information. It can be spirit guides, guardian angels, all of that stuff. There is, I was just about to sigh. I think there's a lot of information. There's a lot of communication. There's a lot of expenditure
right.
going of like weeding through the stuff. And unfortunately, a lot of it we actually need at this point.
Mhm,
So in a practical sense, and then in a very intellectual sense. I mean, I think, you know, people buying whatever their favorite headache pills are, you know, there's going to be a spike somewhere around the moon in you know, Advil sales or something, because it feels like mentally draining. Like uh there's a lot of draining. I mean, I feel bad that we're kind of, you know, making this sound like such a heavy month, but
I know.
being prepared that there's going to be a lot, and so to plan for the self-care, I think is critical. But there's a lot of stuff to weed through here.
Mhm,
And again, being pages, their juvenile energy is not necessarily the most mature
mhm,
forms of communication, except in this case, if you're talking about channeled energy or spirit guide energy or angelic energy, yes, it is highly evolved, but pages in general are more useful. So
mhm,
enter into it with that kind of spirit, because this is not like wise men on the hill kind of information. This is like the nitty gritty, practical stuff, the stuff you need to know, I
mhm.
don't know, like
Right,
all the, yeah,
right. I
the
have a
mundane.
I have a really good friend who is she is in a serious relationship, and this is probably the most serious relationship she's ever been in. And she has told me, or she shared with me, she's like, I used to hear people say all the time that having a healthy, long relationship takes a lot of work. And I never knew what they meant by that. She's like, I never understood that. She's like, now I understand it. Right. So it's all of those little things that, on the one hand, what the cosmos is making or trying to make clear for us is this is a lot, and is it worth it? Because if it's worth it, then you're going to do it. Then it's
Mhm.
you understand that it's worth it to you, that this is worth working on or whatever, right? If it's not, then that's also valuable information.
Yeah, and I think, you know, I was having a conversation on the weekend with a person here who's changed their lifestyle. Their family has moved out here on this little tiny island,
Mhm,
and with a little toddler, and total lifestyle change from what they were living in the city, what most people live.
mm,
And it was, you know, are we making the right decision? Did we make the right decision? Like, how many chickens is too many chickens? Like, you know, like,
right,
you know, but we did this because of all these things that our values have shifted. Like the other environment did not reflect our values.
right.
And I said something, you know, which I got this reaction of like, and the thing is, we have been disconnected from what life really is. We have a manufactured life
Mm,
in modern society. Humans did not have this kind of life before. And when I think about farming, and I don't mean like large scale factory farming, but like really hands on small farming kind of
mm.
environment, it is hard. There's always a problem, always. What you did last year does not necessarily work this year. What the guy down the road does and it works might not work for you.
Right.
But every single day you do it because that's life. You need to eat. You need to tend to the land. You need to face the elements. You need to get up again tomorrow. So stuff needs to get done. It's a metaphor for life, really, what life is.
Mhm.
And I feel that that's not that everybody's going to go become a farmer, but it's
Right.
that awareness of like, I don't know what story we bought at some point in time saying that you're going to do A and B and C and then you sit there and live a life of I don't know what.
Mm,
It's false, and it's that daily I need to work at it, and
mhm.
working at it doesn't mean I'm doing it wrong.
Right. Right.
Have it frequently be difficult doesn't mean I'm doing it wrong. But where do I spend that energy? Because I have to spend energy in
Right.
order to get satisfaction.
Right. Right. Yeah. There's a significant calling back to the reality of living life, of earning something, of being in a relationship, of a shift in career. Like all of these things are very much there. But when we're talking about energies like Capricorn, especially, it's to your point, it's like at what point did we get disconnected from the reality of the day to day and what certain things require on a day to day if we're being very practical about it?
Mhm.
Yeah. On October 21st, we have Mercury and Scorpio trine Saturn and Pisces. So, that October 17th full moon is on a Thursday, and that's going to take us to that weekend of 18, 19, 20th. The moon will be transiting the sign of Taurus most of that weekend, so I think that's actually good. It'll ground us. I think it's a nice grounding energy. And then October 21st is like the beginning of that following week with Mercury and Scorpio trine Saturn and Pisces. Anytime we have a connection between, or a trine, I should say, between Mercury and Saturn, there's a level headedness there.
Mhm.
There's a level headedness, or it's of like, all right, this is what I'm working with. This is what I've got, right? So Mercury and Scorpio is based on all of the things that I have discovered, that have come to light, that I have realized of myself, of another, of what this really means. The trine to Saturn in Pisces is taking responsibility for where this is going to move to next. Taking responsibility for the fact that something has to end, Pisces, and some in order for something new to begin, which will eventually lead us into 2025 and 2026. There's so much
Mhm.
about this eclipse season, and I think that that's why it has felt so, I don't know, like unforgiving. There is something about it that has felt very unforgiving, but I don't think it's that. I just think it's a different level of honesty that we're not used to because it's very easy to lie to ourselves. That is preparing us for something much greater and farther down the line. So, Mercury trine Saturn is this is an agreement I'm making, an agreement or a promise I'm making to myself, an agreement or a promise we're making to each other. If we're talking about way like much more practical things here, this is like great energy to have conversations around business, especially Mercury and Scorpio, conversations around contracts, leases, uh, like big money or any kind of money, anything that has to do with like a well-being. And you're like, okay, if I get into this now, I may not see like a return on something immediately, but I will see a return on something eventually.
Well,
Mhm.
we have a good card for that day, which does last. I mean, again, the energy lasts. It's the Six of Swords. So there's a jumping in. There's a, the turtle just jumps in off the shore and has to go in rough waters to get to wherever he's going. So
Mm.
we're not at the other shore. You jump in, you're not at the shore yet. You're not quite sure what the other shore looks like, but you do have to get in and you go, and there's movement. So
Mhm.
it's a card of movement and progress and making the right decision. And I know with all of this information and all of these truths and all of these changes, it's like it's going to feel difficult to make decisions because of the overwhelm and the not trusting. I can't trust anything. I can't even trust my own eyes. I can't trust
Mm.
people. I can't trust authority, all of that stuff. What can I trust? But
Mhm.
then still, it's like if you don't move, nothing changes. So you do have to jump in and go. At least you can, in his cases, are they called fins or legs? I don't know what their
All
legs.
right.
Just have
Right.
legs, right? So, yeah, like what do they
Good
have?
point.
They paddle, you know.
Right.
Typically it's a card where there's a person in a boat. It's usually a family. There's like swords sticking in a boat, they're
Okay.
cloaked, and the third person is navigating for them. They're fleeing or heading for safety or something like that. So it is a positive card. Sixes are always about balance and harmony, and reaching a certain point along the path where you're like, yeah, okay, I have a sign. This is the time. This is the direction. There's some inclination of how to proceed, even if you're not sure how it goes or where to go exactly or what it looks like on the other side.
Mm-hmm. I really love that card and how it shows, like, how it really shows all that water with Mercury and Scorpio and Saturn and Pisces. I mean, it really is that,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. Um, October 22nd, we have the Sun in Libra square Pluto and Capricorn. And shortly thereafter, we begin Scorpio season. So this is the last time that the Sun in Libra is going to square a Pluto in Capricorn. So what does this tell us? The Sun in Libra is the Sun, our egos, how we show up to the relationship to everything and everyone. The square, it's a catalyst for change. Pluto in Capricorn, you know what you need to leave behind. You know what doesn't work. You know what needs to be transformed. It's literally, maybe not literally, but it's really like saying, "Oh, okay, I guess bye this type of Libra energy. Uh I'll never see you again." It really is that because there's just a different level of clarity and honesty. And in we go to Scorpio season, which is, well, how do I begin to delve in? I think Mercury has already done that because Mercury went into Scorpio earlier in the month. And so like part of us has been going there. But now both Mercury and the Sun are in
Mm.
Scorpio. We're ready to dive deep within. We're ready to do that. But it's just the beginning, and it'll, I think that week can bring some manifestations for some people, like Sun square Pluto. That's the ego and a sense of empowerment also coming together, and there being a very fruitful for manifestation for some people. So that's also really interesting.
Yeah, when I got these two cards for those two aspects, I was like, oh, this is something really positive. And again, coincidence, not a coincidence.
Right.
It starts with the 10 of cups and goes to the ace of cups.
Wow. Wow.
And so tens are the completion, That's
Mhm.
your happily ever after, complete fulfillment, emotional fulfillment, love, you know, love and abundance and all of those things. And then it starts with opening up the heart. You have to open up the heart, heal the heart in order to have this. And so it's the complete cycle, but it's like in reverse.
Mhm.
Focus on the end, focus on the outcome, total exposure, complete
Mhm.
vulnerability,
Mhm.
the turtle without his shell kind of right out there. Well, it starts with that. It starts with that burst of, you can call it love, self love, or whatever, but it's open heartedness. It's like an endless supply. And that's where it comes from. It's just like, I mean, that theme of surrender is running through in the background everywhere. The theme of self-care, the theme of, truth, all of it. You want the 10 of cups, you got to open that up again.
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
want the happily ever after, well, you got to step out of the shadows. You want to
Mhm.
step out of the shadows, you have to admit there's a shadow. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, there's some form of I think that final square between the sun and Pluto is I will not be the same after this.
No,
I will not.
nothing is, I
Right.
think nothing will be the same.
Mhm. Mhm. October 24th, we have Mars in Cancer sextile Uranus in Taurus. So this is an aspect that we want to pay attention to because this aspect is going to repeat itself at least two more times. And I don't remember the exact dates right now, but if I'm thinking of the degrees, it's probably going to happen once more in February and March of 2025. Um, because Mars is going to retrograde. So Mars sextile Uranus is a breakthrough. It is the breaking of a pattern, the breaking of the way that things have been done. What I love is the signs that they're in. Because Mars in Cancer and Taurus, there's something about those two energies that really understand one another. They're very caring, they're very giving in different ways, but there is an undertone of minding someone else, right?
Mhm.
Um, And so Mars in Cancer, let's say that this has to do, well, this is the anger that I'm carrying because of family childhood stuff. The sextile, it's a very soft aspect to Uranus and Taurus is, well, if you tend to it, you will break free from it. If you tend to it, you will have revelations about it. If you tend to it, you will be liberated from it. You will be able to create a distance between who you are, Mars as an individual, and what that is, the pain. Because so much, I also think that Mars retrograde is going to have to do so much about an individuating process,
Mm.
especially if people are dealing with childhood family stuff.
Hmm. Well, we have the Chariot on that day. And it's like
Mm.
very different from so many versions of this card. So, okay, there's movement. The Chariot, it's a major arcana. So it's movement on a major level. Nothing you can do to speed up, nothing you can do to slow down. All you can do is navigate. Again, there's a lot of unknowns. We're going on this journey very aware of what we don't know.
Mm.
Doesn't really help us, but we do know we have to go. We have to embark on this journey. And so this shows up to say there is something divinely guided in how we're doing this in order to even blindly give you some kind of comfort to know. It could be signs popping up, it could be
Right.
serendipity, it could be something that kind of nudges you and says, I know this is difficult. I know this is like traumatic. I know this is tumultuous, but we got you. Like, we're just keep going, keep your eyes open, feel your way through. We got you. Like, so there is that big feeling. It's very, every time a major arcana shows up, it's like a big life theme kind of importance.
Right. Right. That takes us to October 28th, where we have again Mars in Cancer, now trine Neptune in Pisces, and then we have Venus in Sagittarius, square Saturn in Pisces. So here we have the two cosmic lovers um, in signs where they are not seeing one another. Mars is in Cancer in a placement where it's uncomfortable. Venus is in Sagittarius, potentially trying to like dissociate and pretend that the things that are happening are not happening. So be mindful of that, right? Connecting with two of the big planets in Pisces that is saying, this needs to be seen. You need to pay attention to this because this is the thing that needs to end. That's not an easy combination. That's not an easy configuration of planets. It's just not. So Mars in Cancer trine Neptune in Pisces is the surrendering again to whatever Mars in Cancer is bringing up, feeling it. But then Venus in Sagittarius is saying, but I don't want to. Like, it's almost Halloween. I want to just think about my costume and what parties I'm going to go to. The square between Venus and Sagittarius and Saturn and Pisces is Saturn and Pisces is going to make you look at the thing that you don't want to look at. And so the way that we can then tap into that Venus and Sagittarius is, okay, what is this trying to teach me? Because that is always what Venus and Sagittarius is
Mm.
looking for in life. It's how can life teach it? Uh, it feels somewhat frustrating. Like, and
I laughed when you said cosmic lovers because it's just really funny. And then everything you're saying, I'm looking at these cards and I'm like, my face is hurting from you. You will anyway. Uh,
okay.
I will let you continue before,
No,
but
no, go ahead. Go ahead.
you will really like what is here.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you said cosmic lovers. It is not the lovers.
Right.
Just so you know, it is a pair. It is a pair, the King and Queen of Pentacles. And
Stop.
it's really funny because usually the King and Queen of Pentacles, or pretty much every king and queen, they're looking in a certain way, and so they either can have their backs to each other or they could be facing each other. Here they're both looking forward, neither away from each other or apart, facing each other or facing away. And I mean, that's a little on the stubborn side, I would say.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
There's something there about like, what you want me to do? What exactly?
Right.
Like, I'm just here, I'm doing my thing. But they are cosmic partners. It's the masculine, feminine of pentacles, meaning everything in a material sense, everything tangible that you want to manifest, everything that you can apply yourself to in order to gain a result. You could
Mm.
put this as soulmates poking at each other, getting a rise out of each other in order to find the sore spot so that you can go, ow, that's still a thing.
Right.
I maybe need to fix that. The mirroring, the like, it's just hilarious to me. And it's all pretty and opulent and you know, grounded at the same time, but there's some stuck energy there. And it may be that you find those triggers through your soulmate, through your twin flame, or it doesn't have to be a love relationship. It can be, a family member or something who is who is your mirror. But oh boy,
Wow. Wow, wow.
cosmic, yeah, cosmic lovers.
That is amazing. Yeah, they don't look very happy. They're
No, they
like,
don't. They're like, why are you looking at
what
me?
now? What more?
I just want to chew the grass, okay? I don't
Right.
want anything else. Go away. Yeah.
Right. October 30th, Mercury and Scorpio opposite Uranus and Taurus. I think this is so promising. And I think because this can just be finally like like an effort moment, but not in from a place of like where you're giving up, but finally from a place where it's like, okay, fine, like I get
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Or, okay, fine, yes, I see where you're coming from. I think there can be such a breakthrough here, such a breakthrough that actually feels like alleviating to the nervous system, Uranus and Taurus. Um, in a different interpretation of this can be unexpected news, right? Mercury and Scorpio, like some dark stuff coming to the surface. Maybe the dark stuff that comes to the surface is what helps you make the decision, whatever that decision is, whether personal relationships or whatever, right? Um, but there is an element of a breakthrough, the unexpected, something coming to light. There is all of that there. And that theme of just raw, unapologetic, and truly unapologetic honesty is there. And there's something about that. We need to look at it.
Oh my goodness. There's the Lion, the King of Wands. This is like a fiery king. This is a big ego king. This is like being bold, like in the positive sense. It's like having the courage to just be bold, be creative, be yourself, be authentic. Don't care. Don't worry about the haters. Just go out there, be your flamboyant self. Go do it. Be weird, be quirky, whatever it is. Just go do it. Everybody else is worrying about every other crazy thing that's happening. I mean, we've got divine timing, all that other stuff happening, so it's like, go out there and do that. The
Mhm,
negative side of this king is being somewhat self-absorbed or manipulative, or doing things because they want things their way. They're not so not so they don't care so much about reciprocity or empathy, or they can pretend to be empathetic to get what they want. So
mhm,
that's some of the ugly stuff that comes out of that king. But as a message to embody, you wouldn't embody those things, but the boldness and the, like, instead of being arrogant, be confident.
mhm,
Doesn't matter, be authentic. just
mhm.
just be bold and do it anyway. And it's funny. I won't say what it is yet, but typically this goes with a card that we actually have for the final card of the month.
Okay.
Foreshadowing.
And and that takes us to October 31st, which is Mercury and Scorpio trine Neptune and Pisces. So Mercury and Scorpio is really swimming through all the things, right? And here the opposition to Uranus and Taurus is that like the liberating of your own voice, right? Or being liberated by a truth that finally comes out, or a major aha moment from deep in
Mhm.
the depths of your psyche. October 31st is the connection to Neptune in Pisces. I think Neptune in Pisces really amplifies the surrendering to what is this month. And there's something very healing about that, because you are alleviating your soul, you're alleviating your heart from so much weight of trying to make things any different at the moment, right? To just simply just trying to fix it so you don't have to feel the things. I think this is Mercury and Scorpio can be a few things. One, kind of, even though there's a bit of like an element of surprise or shock, kind of also being like, but I kind of knew that. There's a
Mhm.
bit of like a knowing, psychic, intuitive quality to this, but I kind of knew that, right? Um, this can also be, there's something very healing and very calming about now knowing this, right? Neptune and Pisces. Mercury and Scorpio trine Neptune and Pisces, this can also, you want to be mindful of your dreams. I think your dreams have a lot of information. I think if you hear something, if you see something on TV, if you listen to a song and you were like, I was just thinking about that, all of these synchronistic signs. Um, and I think that this is also a great week for a lot of, if you have a therapist or a coach, for a lot of those aha moments that can
Mhm.
actually, yeah, just bring profound understanding of things.
I'm not going to hold this up too much because I don't like snakes, so we won't look at it. But strength, it's strength shows up again. It's a major when you need courage to do something.
Mm.
So those two, typically, it's a lion in the position of strength, and it's just
Great.
again interesting that we have these two things side by side because it's the courage to stand up to something, the courage to stand in the face of something, the courage to be yourself, the courage to embody this other energy of being bold or being confident or standing in your weirdness, whatever.
Mhm.
Strength only shows up when you actually need courage. It's like
Mhm.
having the strength to do it. And I know like a lot of people are really tired of the word resilience. It's like I really wish I didn't have to be resilient. Like what a great compliment, but I'm really tired of being resilient. And it's like, yeah, but you are,
Mhm.
and you will continue to be. Because if
Mhm.
you're not, you're going to go backwards. And so in
Mhm.
order to move forward, it is a constant test of how resilient you are. And there is I think tapping into the collective power of that resiliency is what that strength card is about. It's not just individually, it's
Right.
tuning into the whatever you can tune into to sort of muster that.
Right. That's yeah, that isn't this that the snake is there. That's very interesting. Um,
Yes, the rat is standing up to the snake, basically.
yeah,
He's showing off and, kind
right.
of mocking him, and the little rat's like,
Right. So interesting.
"Mm."
I mean, I think the entire human experience takes resilience. I just think that we get tired of resiliency because a lot of times we're saying yes to things we want to say no to.
Yeah,
And so,
and we survived another something, and we survived another
mhm,
something. I would like to not survive everything and be, float along the top for a while. Like, how about that?
right,
Yeah.
right. So
Almost.
that is October. That's October, and it's, I mean, I know that I've said this and I'll keep saying it, that all of this is so necessary. And it's simply because there's a significant shift in paradigm. It's not just Pluto and Aquarius. It will be Uranus and Gemini. It will be Neptune in Aries. It will be Saturn in Aries. And all of this, 2024 and 2025 are such transitionary years that essentially are taking us to that summer of 2026. I feel that it's the summer of 2026 that whatever you're experiencing now, by the way, it doesn't mean that it's gonna take that long. I'm just saying that that feels like that new beginning. There's something about that 2026 time. And I don't know if any cards want to come up
Okay,
around that
well,
time.
I'm gonna, just in case everybody's like going, "Oh my God, October sounds so
Right.
awful." I'm
Yeah.
going to, I am now going to talk in my pleasant voice and see if there's something calming and soothing from a very inspirational deck that has no negative cards, just to see if there's any message of oh, there it is. Well, that's interesting. Well, isn't that nice? It's very pretty colors.
What
It's
is
a
it? Oh, infinity.
infinity, and it says, "Dearest one, rest within the light of your soul. Feel my spirit dive within you, the spirit of the goddess of nature, the earth and stars. Accept the love and light we shower upon you." So there you go. A little something that confirms or affirms that we are divinely guided and protected,
Right.
whatever that means to you, in whatever way. But yes, happy message. Leave them on a good note.
They're not gonna come back next month.
So like and share and subscribe and interact with us, and we're here for you. Really, we're just trying to
Right.
forewarned. Yes,
Yeah,
that's it's to be prepared. Be
exactly.
prepared. Know that
Exactly.
it's just, everything is in transition. That's all. Yeah.
Right. Well, we hope that that is helpful, and we will be back for November. So, so much love to you all. Thank you all so much for joining us.
Yes. Thank you.